Petroleum products and chemicals. Petroleum products and chemicals are the major contributor of India's industrial GDP, and together they contribute over 34% of its export earnings. India hosts many oil refinery and petrochemical operations, including the world's largest refinery complex in Jamnagar that processes 12.4 lakh barrels of crude oil per day. The chemical industry contributed $163 billion to the economy in FY18 and is expected to reach 300 to 400 billion by 2025. The industry employed 1.7 crore people in 2016. Pharmaceuticals. The Indian pharmaceutical industry has grown in recent years to become a major manufacturer of healthcare products for the world. India holds a 20% market share in the global supply of generics by volume. The Indian pharmaceutical sector also supplies over 62% of the global demand for various vaccines. India's pharmaceutical exports stood at 17.27 billion in 2017 to 18 and are expected to reach 20 billion by 2020. Textile. The textile and apparel market in India was estimated to be 108.5 billion in 2015. It is expected to reach a size of 226 billion by 2023. The industry employs over 3.5 crores people. By value, the textile industry accounts for 7% of India's industrial, 2% of GDP, and 15% of the country's export earnings. India exported 39.2 billion worth of textiles in the year 2017 to 18 fiscal years. The Indian textiles industry is estimated at $100 billion and contributes 13% of the industrial output and 2.3% of the India's GDP, while employs over 4.5 crores. Ludhiana produces 90% of woolens in India and is known as the Manchester of India. Tirupur has gained universal recognition as the leading source of hosiery, knitted garments, casual wear, and sportwear. Pulp and paper. The pulp and paper industry in India is one of the major producers of paper in the world and has adopted new manufacturing technology. The paper market in India was estimated to be worth rupees 600 billion in 2017 to 18, recording CAGR of 6 to 7%. Mining. Mining contributed $63 billion and employed 2 crores people of workforce. India's mining industry was the fourth largest producer of minerals in the world by volume and eighth largest producer by value in 2009. India operated about 3,000 mines in 2010, half of which were coal, limestone, and iron ore. On output value basis, India was one of the 5 largest producers of mica, chromite, coal, lignite, iron ore, bauxite, barite, zinc, and manganese, while being one of the 10 largest global producers of many other minerals. India was the 4th largest producer of steel in 2013 and the 7th largest producer of aluminium. India's mineral sources are vast. However, its mining industry has declined, contributing 2.3% of the GDP in 2010 compared to 3% in 2000, and employed 29 lakh people and decreasing percentage of its total labor. India is net importer of many minerals including coal. India's mining sector declined because of complex permit, regulatory, and administrative procedures, inadequate infrastructure, shortage of capital resources, and slow adoption of environmentally sustainable technologies. Iron and steel. In fiscal year 2014 to 15, India was the 3rd largest producer of raw steel and the largest producer of sponge iron. The industry produced 9.1 crore tons of finished steel and 97 tons of pig iron. Most iron and steel in India is produced from iron ore. Construction. The construction industry contributed $288 billion, 13% of GDP, and employed 6 crores people in 2016. The construction and real estate sector ranks third among the 14 major sectors in terms of direct, indirect, and induced effect in all sectors of the economy. Services. The service sector has the largest share in India's GDP, accounting for 57% in 2012 and up 15% in 1950. It is the seventh largest services sector by nominal GDP, the third largest when purchasing power is taken into account. The service sector provides employment to 27% of the workforce. Information technology and business processes outsourcing are among the fastest growing sector, having a cumulative growth rate of revenue 33.6% between fiscal years 1997 to 98 and 2002 to 2003, and contributing to 25% of the country's total export. Aviation. India is the fourth largest civil aviation market in the world, recording an air traffic of 15.8 crore passengers in 2017. The market is estimated to have 800 aircraft by 2020, which would account for 4.3% of global volumes, and is expected to record annual passenger traffic of 52 crores by 2037. IATA estimated that aviation contributed $30 billion to India's GDP in 2017 and supported 75 lakhs jobs, 3,90,000 directly and 5,70,000 in the value chain, and 62 lakhs through the tourism. Civil aviation in India traces the beginning to 18 February 1911, when Henry Becquet, the French aviator, carried 6,500 pieces of mail on a Hamburg biplane from Allahabad to Naini. Later, in 15th October 1932, G.R.D. Tata flew a consignment of mail from Karachi to Juhu Airport. His airline later became Air India and was the first Asian airline to cross the Atlantic Ocean, as well as the first Asian airline to fly jets. Nationalization. In March 1953, the Indian Parliament passed the Air Corporations Act to streamline and nationalize the and then existing privately owned 8 domestic airlines into Indian Airlines for domestic services and Tata Group owned Air India for international services. The International Airport Authority of India was constituted in 1972, while the National Airport Authority was constituted in 1986. The Bureau of Civil Aviation Security was established in 1987 following the crash of Air India flight in 8182. Deregulation. The government deregulated the civil aviation sector in 1991 when the government allowed private airlines to operate charter and non-scheduled service under the air taxi scheme until 1994, when the Air Corporation Act was repealed and private airline could now operate scheduled service. Private airlines including Jet Airways, Air Sahara, Modil Foot, Damania Airways and NEPC Airlines commenced domestic operation during this period. Banking and financial. The financial service industry contributed $809 billion, that is 37% of GDP, and employed 1.4 crore people in 2016, and the banking sector contributed $407 billion and employed 55 lakhs people in 2016. The Indian money market is classified into the organized sector, comprising private, public, and foreign owned commercial banks and cooperative banks, together known as scheduled banks, and the unorganized sector, which includes individual and family owned indigenous bankers or money lenders, and non banking financial companies. Prime Minister Indira Gandhi nationalized 14 banks in 1969, followed by six others in 1980, and made it mandatory for banks to provide 40% of their net credit to priority sector, including agriculture, small scale industry, retail trade, and small business, to ensure that the banks fulfilled their social and developmental goals. Since then, the number of banks branches has increased from 8,260 in 1969 to 72,170 in 2007, and the population covered by a branch decreased from 63,800 to 15,000 during the same period. The total bank deposit increased from rupees 59.1 billion. Financial technology. According to the report of the National Association of Software and Services Companies, NASSCOM, India has a presence of around 400 companies in the 15th space, with an investment of about $420 million in 2015. The NASSCOM report also estimated the fintech software and service market to grow 1.7 times by 2020, making it worth $8 billion. The Indian fintech landscape is segmented as follows: that is 34% in payment processing, followed by 32% in banking and 12% in the trading, public and private markets. Information technology. Information technology (IT) industry in India consists of two major components: IT service and business process outsourcing (BPO). The sector has increased its contribution to India's GDP from 1.2% in 1998 to 7.5% in 2012. According to NASSCOM, the sector aggregated revenues of $147 billion in 2015, where export revenue stood at $99 billion and domestic at $48 billion, growing by over 13%. The Indian IT industry is a major exporter of IT service with $227 billion in revenue and employs over 5 million people. The growth in the IT sector is attributed to increased specialization and an availability of a large pool of low-cost, highly skilled, fluent English-speaking workers, matched by increased demand from foreign consumers interested in India's service export or looking to outsource their operations. The share of the Indian IT industry in the country's GDP increased from 4.8% in 2005 to 2006 to 7% in 2008. In 2009, seven Indian firms were listed among the top 15 technology outsourcing companies in the world. Insurance. India became the 10th largest insurance market in the world's 2013, rising from 15th in 2011 at a total market size of $66.4 billion in 2013. It remains small compared to world's major economies, and the Indian insurance market accounted for just 2% of the world's insurance business in 2017. India's life and non-life insurance industry collected rupees 6.1 lakh crores in total gross insurance premium in 2018. Retail. The retail industry, excluding wholesale, contributed $793 billion and employed 3.5 crore people, 8% of the workforce in 2020. The industry is the second largest employer in India after agriculture. The Indian retail market estimated to be $600 billion and one of the top five retail market in the world by economic value. India has one of the fastest growing retail market in the world. India's retail industry mostly consists of local mom and pop stores, owner staffed shop, and street vendors. Tourism. The World's Travel and Tourism Council calculated that tourism generated rupees 15.24 lakh crore or 9.4% of the nation's GDP in 2017 and supported 4.16 crores jobs, 8% of its total employment. Over 1.2 crores Indian citizens take international trips to each year for tourism, while domestic tourism within India adds about 74 crores Indian travelers. Media and entertainment. The study also predicted that television, cinema, and over the top services would account for nearly half of the overall industry growth during the period. India's healthcare sector is expected to grow at CAGR of 29% between 2015 and 2020 to reach $280 billion. The Ayurveda industry in India recorded a market size of $4.4 billion in 2018. Logistics. The logistics industry in India was worth over $160 billion in 2016 and grew at a CAGR of 7.8% in the previous 5-year period. The industry employs about 2.2 crores people. It is expected to reach of a size of $215 billion by 2020. India was ranked 35th out of 160 countries in the World Bank in 2016 Logistics Performance Index. The telecommunication sector generated rupees 2.2 lakhs crores in revenue in 2014 to 15, accounting for 1.94% of total GDP. India is the second largest market in the world by number of telephone users, both fixed and mobile phones, with 105.3 crore subscribers as of 31 August 2016. It has one of the lowest call tariffs in the world. Due to fierce competition among telecom operators, India has the world's third largest internet user base. As of 31 March 2016, there were 34.2 crore internet subscribers in the country. India's telecommunication industry is the world's second largest by the number of mobile phones, smartphone, and internet users. It's the world's 24th largest oil producer and the third largest oil consumer. Globalization. India's top exports here given. India's top imports. Until the liberalization of 1991, India was largely and intentionally isolated from world market to protect its economy and to achieve self-reliance. Foreign direct investment in India, these are the countries, direct investments from the India. There is the countries from that investment in India. As the third largest economy in the world PPP terms, India has attracted foreign direct investment FDI. Since 2000, Indian companies have expanded overseas, investing FDI and creating jobs outside India. From 2006 to 2010, FDI by Indian companies outside India announced to 1.34% of its GDP. Indian companies have deployed FDI and started operation in United States, Europe, and Africa. The Indian company Tata is United Kingdom's largest manufacturer and private sector employer. In 2015, the total of rupees $68.91 billion was made in remittance to Indian from other countries, and a total US dollar 8.476 billion was made in remittance by foreign workers in India to their home countries. UAE, US, and Saudi Arabia were the top source of remittance to India, while Bangladesh, Pakistan, and Nepal were the top recipients of remittance from India. Remit- Remittances to India accounted for 3.32 of country's GDP. Here, exchange rate in 1947, $1 US dollar is 3.31 rupees. Now, in 2021, it is $1 is 74.98. It is increased year by year. Indian rupees is the only legal tender in India and is also accepted as legal tender in neighboring Nepal and Bhutan, both of which peg their currency to that of the Indian rupee. India's gross national income per capita had experienced high growth rates since 2002. It tripled from rupees 1940 in 2002 to 3 to 53,331 in 2010 to 11, averaging 13.7% growth each of these 8 years, with peak growth of 15.6% in 2010 and 11, and growth in the inflation adjusted per capita income of the nation slowed to 5.6% in 2010 to 11, down from 6.4% in the previous year. Poverty on the 2019 Global Hunger Index, India ranked 102 102 out of 117 countries. 102 place, second place, 102nd place in 117 countries, being categorized as serious in severity. Employment of the total workforce, 7% is in the organized sector, two-thirds of which are in government-controlled public sector. About 51.2% of the workforce in India is self-employed. These are the workforce of the India. One more time. Of the total workforce, 7% is in the organized sector, two-thirds of which are in the government-controlled public sector, and about 51.2% of the workforce in India is self-employed. Unemployment. Unemployment in India is characterized by chronic disused unemployment. Government schemes that target eradication of both poverty and unemployment, which is recent decades has sent crores of poor and unskilled people into urban areas in search of livelihood, attempt to solve the problem by providing financial assistance for starting business, honing skills, settling up public sector enterprises, reservation in governments. Child labor. Child labor is a complex problem that is rooted in poverty. Since the 1990s, the government has implemented a variety of programs to eliminate child labor. These have included setting up schools, launching free school lunch program, creating special investigation cells, etc. Child labor below the age of 10 is now rare. In the 10 to 14 age group, the latest survey found only 2% of children working for wage, while another 9% work within their home or rural farms assisting their parents in times of high work demand such as sowing and harvesting of crops. Diaspora employment. India has the largest diaspora around the world. An estimated 1.6 crores people, many of whom work overseas and remit funds back to their families. The Middle East region is the largest source of employment for expat Indians. The crude oil production and infrastructure industry of Saudi Arabia employs over 20 lakhs expat Indians. Cities such as Dubai and Abu Dhabi in United Arab Emirates have employed another 20 lakhs Indian during the construction boom in recent decades. In 2009 to 10, remittance from Indian migrants over stood at rupees 2 lakhs 50,000 crores, equivalent to rupees 4.8 trillion or rupees 60 billion in 2020, the highest in the world, but their share in FDI remained low at around 1%. Trade unions. In India, the trade unions movement is generally divided on political lines. According to provisional statistics from Ministry of Labour, trade unions had a combined membership of 24 crores 60 lakhs in 2002. As 2018, there are 12 central trade unions organizations recognized by the Ministry of Labour. The forming of this union was a big deal in India, led to big push for more regulatory laws which gave workers a lot more power. ITEC is the oldest trade union in India. Corruption. Corruption has been a pervasive problem in India. A 2005 study by Transparency International (TI) found that more than half of those surveyed had first-hand experience of paying a bribe or peddling influences to get a job done in a public office of in the previous year. A follow-up study in 2008 found this rate to be 40%. In 2011, TI ranked India at 95th place amongst 183 countries in perceived levels of public sector corruption. By 2016, India saw a reduction in corruption and its ranking improved to 79th place. India has an underground economy with 2006 report alleging that India topped the worldwide list of block money within almost $1,456 billion stashed in Swiss bank. This would amount to 13 times the country's total external debt. The demonetization, together with the introduction of the goods and service tax (GST), is believed to be responsible for the slowdown of this bribe growth. Education. India has made progress in increasing the primary education attendance rate and expanding literacy to approximately three-fourths of the population. India's literacy rate had grown from 52.2% in 1991 to 74.04% in 2011. The right to education at the elementary level has been made one of the fundamental rights under the 86th Amendment of 2002, and legislation had been enhanced to further the objective of providing free education to all children. However, the literacy rate is 74% in lower than the worldwide average, and the country suffers from high dropout rate. Literacy rates and educational opportunities vary by region, gender, urban and rural areas, and among different social groups. Poverty, poverty rates in India, poorest states are 3 to 4 times higher than those in more advanced states. While India's average annual per capita income is 1,410 in 2011, placing it among the poorest of the world's middle income countries, it was just $436 in Uttar Pradesh, which has more than people than Brazil, and only $294 in Bihar, one of India's poorest states. The critical problem facing India's economy is the sharp and growing regional variation among India's different states and territories in terms of poverty, available of infrastructure and socio-economic development. The development of Indian security market began with the launch of Bombay Stock Exchange (BSE) in July 1875 and the Ahmedabad Stock Exchange in 1894. Since then, 22 other exchanges have traded in Indian cities. In 2014, India's stock exchange market became the 10th largest in the world market capitalization. We have done. Please subscribe our YouTube channel.